Don't know what I'm feeling. Don't know.
We have a visitor. This is Sage. Anyway, hello all, I'm Marin. Welcome to another reading vlog. This is going to be another buzzword reading vlog. Again, Sage is making an appearance. And my goal is going to be to catch up on the buzz cover and continue my reading through the buzzword. Now, it has been a couple of months since I have filmed a buzzword vlog, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a catch up here at the start of this one, and also let you know what I'm going to be reading in this vlog. So let's go ahead and kind of rewind a little bit. I believe the last buzzword vlog that I filmed was June, if I'm remembering correctly. So I want to talk about July and August. I am not completely up to date on the buzz cover challenge. I have not read all of the books for that. So I'm going to, again, be doing a little bit of catch up here. But for July, I did read Nothing But a Good Time, which was for the prompt of punctuation in the title. That was the buzzword for that. And then in August, the buzzword was to have the word with in the title. And for that, I read Comfort Me with Apples. So here is what the buzzword challenge is looking like at the start of this vlog. I gave 4 stars to both of those books. Comfort Me with Apples was on my 2025 TBR, and it is by Catherine M. Valente. I enjoyed this book, but I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I do think this was actually a novella that worked well, which is not always the case. I don't have great luck with novellas, but this one I really liked. I liked that the story had a nice, like, solid conclusion, and I appreciated the writing. The horror elements were really creepy, and I felt like it was well done. So I gave that one 4 stars. Nothing But a Good Time was one that I was really looking forward to, but I think the audiobook let me down a little bit. So this was told via interviews with various members of various hair metal, for lack of a better term, groups from the late 70s and 80s. So it started off talking about Van Halen and Twisted Sister, and then moved into the groups that really became prominent in the 80s, starting with Motley Crue and moving through to Guns N' Roses and Poison and things like that. So I liked the interview aspect. However, I am someone who has read a great deal of books about the 80s rock movement. I've read a number of autobiographies, group biographies, and all of that. So there wasn't really that much new information for me personally. And the audiobook was not done in a way that I really enjoyed. So there were 2 narrators for the audiobook. We had a male narrator and a female narrator. Okay, Sage is leaving. And anytime a male was doing the interview pieces, this same male narrator did all of the narration. As soon as there was a woman who was interviewed, so this could have been someone who worked at one of the clubs where these bands performed in LA. It could have been like a costume designer, etc. The woman narrator would then speak those lines. And I just felt like that was kind of a very jarring way to do it. I don't think it was necessary, and I feel like it kind of took me out of the story itself, the narration. So I didn't love that. Also, I just didn't really find that anything groundbreaking was brought forward in the book. So while I enjoyed it, particularly interviews with groups that I was not as familiar with, I still think overall it was only worth a 4-star in my opinion. So both of those got 4 stars. Now, for the buzzword for September, you are going to see me reading Midnight in Chernobyl. This is by Adam Higginbotham. This is for the event in the title because Chernobyl, when people hear that, it's an event. I will talk more about that, I'm sure, later when I give you my thoughts on the book. But this is going to be what I am reading for September's Buzzword. Now let's shift and talk about the Buzz cover because this is the one that I am a little bit behind in. So the Buzz cover prompt for July was to read a book with some kind of technology on the cover. And for that, I chose Honey by Isabel Bonta. This one I did not really love. This book took a lot of inspiration from Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and Justin Timberlake. That is who she kind of modeled her three characters, main characters, around. And I liked it, but once again, I just felt like it wasn't anything special. I also felt like the book was really slow. I did like how she kind of focused on how albums are made. I found that part a little bit more interesting, but overall I didn't love the characters and I just kind of felt that the book was kind of fine. So I gave it 3 stars. It was a book of the month book for me, so I'm glad that I've read it. I know now that I can move it out of my collection, but yeah, it was not a favorite and yeah. I wouldn't really recommend it. It was just okay. So 3 stars for that one. So I need to read the August Buzz cover and I need to read the September Buzz cover. So the cover prompt for August was transportation on the title. So for that, I will be reading With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. It has a train on the cover. And then the September Buzz cover prompt is foliage on the cover. So for that, I will be reading Salt Houses by Hala Al-Yan. So this is where I stand with the Buzz cover challenge. Hopefully I can check those 2 off in this vlog and be caught up. So that's what you're gonna see. Let's go ahead and just dive on in. And I think I'm going to tackle Midnight in Chernobyl first. So let's get reading.
Thoughts stray, yeah. You got me
Hello all, I am probably a little over halfway at this point through Midnight in Chernobyl. This is by Adam Higginbotham, and as I've already mentioned earlier in the vlog, this is my buzzword pick for the month of September, which is event in the title, and I am using Chernobyl as the event because when you hear Chernobyl, typically speaking, most people's minds immediately go to the disaster that occurred at that power plant. So you can't get more eventful than that, in my opinion. So that is what I'm reading. I am currently on page 261, which is page 15. So this book has been laid out in an interesting way. The first couple of chapters really focused on kind of the science behind nuclear reactors and then also specifically the construction of the RMBK reactor, which was the one, or RBMK, I can't remember one of those acronyms, it's on the screen. The creation of that reactor and kind of the inherent flaws that people were aware it had, but were kind of like dusting under the rug, if you will, in order to continue to push out things in a quick succession because they were competing with the United States. As we know, the United States had just done their launch to the moon and the Soviet Union wanted to kind of counteract that with the creation of nuclear power plants. So a lot of safety regulations and things were kind of thrown by the wayside, if you will, in order to quickly get these out. It also covered a few disasters that had happened within the Soviet Union that people weren't aware of. And then it also talks very briefly about 3 Mile Island in the United States. And I believe it's Windfill, something that happened in the UK. Again, I've put the name on the screen because now I can't remember what it's called. But I did actually watch a fascinating horror video on that one in the UK. I will link that down in the description box if you would like to go check it out. I highly recommend that channel. He does a really great job covering disasters that a lot of people don't know about, and I appreciate the way that he tells the stories. So that was a side note. But anyway, I am halfway through. So after those initial first 2 chapters, kind of just introducing things, we then get into the actual destruction of reactor 4 at the Chernobyl power plant. So once you get through kind of of the initial background information, if you will. It is then broken into time periods. So we have like Friday, April 25th, 5 p.m. in Pripyat, and then Friday, April 25th, 11:55, unit control room number 4, etc. And it goes through all the way through when they finally decide to evacuate the city of Pripyat, with untruths regarding how soon the people will be able to return, because obviously we know now they've never been able to return, and the city has just kind of been left because it is too irradiated for people to live there. So that kind of, obviously, hindsight, we know what really happened, but there's a lot of looking into like how the decision to evacuate came about and the things that had to happen in order for them to finally agree that evacuation was necessary. So I found that really interesting. Then you move on to part 2. It's called Death of an Empire. I believe that's where I am right now. I think, yes, that's where I am right now. And so it goes through the aftermath of the disaster and what kind of unfolded at that point. So the way that the USSR was forced to reveal that there was a disaster in Chernobyl because other countries in Europe were getting radiation readings that were not normal and could only indicate that there had been something huge that happened, and how they were kind of forced to admit, rather, that something went wrong. And then I am currently on chapter 15. So there are 5 chapters left in the book. This last chunk right here is like the bibliography and the notes section. So that's quite a big chunk. There are also some photographs and things that he has included in here. So I really don't have that much physical reading left. So my goal is to have this done by the end of today. There's also like a little section that kind of talks about units of radiation, because he obviously is using those terms throughout the book. There's a glossary because there are terms and things that are in Russian that we don't really know what they mean, so he's explained that. And then there is a pretty good sized author's note, and then it does kind of recap what happened to some of the people who played a role in the disaster and the aftermath. So we just finished the section where basically the woman who designed Pripyat has been told we're never going to be able to return people to Pripyat, and you're going to have to accept that. It literally says, forget it, you will never return to Pripyat. So that's kind of the end of that chapter. So that's where I am. We are heading into now the investigation. So once I have finished the book, I will come back and give you full thoughts. But I am really enjoying this right now. I think it's very easily accessible, and I would recommend if you are interested in the subject matter. So with that being said, let me get back to reading, and I hopefully will see you later on today.
Thinking that I made a mistake, but inside feels so nice. Butterflies, wow, yeah. Got me some type of way with every pass.
Hello all, I did finish reading Midnight in Chernobyl yesterday, and I'm giving this 5 stars. I thought this was really, really well done. I really liked how he broke things down into layman's terms, if you will, when it came to the reactor itself. And I appreciate the work that must have gone into doing the interviews with all of these various people in order to get the full story, or as much of a full story as he could get. So I really, really liked this. I think the most impactful chapters for me personally were obviously the ones talking about the liquidators who were brought in to clean up the aftermath of this explosion, and many of them suffered very horrendous health effects because of it, and they are not even like accounted for in the official numbers of deaths, even though we know that many of them died because of cancer and things due to the radiation that they received. So that chapter was particularly impactful in my opinion. I also enjoyed the one where they talked about making the sarcophagus, which was the original cover for the reactor number 4, and that's since been replaced with the new safe confinement. And they talk the tiniest bit about that, but at the point of this book being written, I don't think that was in place yet. It was in the process of being built. So yeah, I really liked those two chapters, and just the way that this was kind of broken down and very easily accessible. I really appreciated the work that went into it. So I would recommend this if you are at all interested in the subject matter. I saw a review from a person that I followed on Goodreads for probably over a decade, and she listed a couple of other books that she thought were good as well. So I did put those on my Goodreads want to read list, and I will hopefully be able to check those out at some point. One is even a graphic novel, which is going to be interesting to kind of see the story in that format. And then one is it's called Voices of Chernobyl, or Voices from Chernobyl, I think, and it's interviews. So I think that one will be very impactful as well. But I really liked this and would highly recommend it. I'm glad that I was able to fit it into the buzzword, because I'm not sure when else I would have read it. But this does complete my September buzzword, which was of course event in the title, so we can check that off. Here is a picture of that graphic. So I am up to date with the buzzword challenge. Now it is time to turn my attention to the buzz cover challenge, where I will need to read 2 books to catch up. I am going to read the one for August's prompt first, and that is going to be With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. The prompt for that was transportation on the title, so this does have a train right here. This was also the Literally Dead book club pick for August, and I did not get it read, so this is what I'm going to focus on. My hope is that I can make a really good dent in this today. I do have the audiobook out from my library. I think I've read every single Riley Sager book via audio, except for The House Across the Lake, where I read like part of it physically and then did the audio. But all the rest of them I think have been audio, and I've really enjoyed those. So we'll see how this one goes. I know this one has not got great ratings, and I'll be curious to see what I think. This will be the 5th Riley Sager book that I have read. I've read every single one of them because of the Literally Dead book club. I have liked 3 of the 4 books that I have read previously, so we will see if I can add this one to my list of likes or not. Basically, we are following a woman who is on a train, and it says she's lured those responsible for her family's downfall onto a luxury train from Philadelphia to Chicago, an overnight journey of 13 hours. Her goal, confront the people who have wronged her, get them to confess their crimes, and deliver them into the hands of authorities waiting at the end of the line. Justice will at last be served. But then as the trip goes, people start dying. So she then has to protect the people responsible for her family's downfall, because she wants them to receive justice in the hands of the police and courts and things like that, and not just by death, if you will. So we'll see what I think. Again, I've heard mixed things. I know that Kayla from Books and Lala did enjoy this one, so I'm hoping that I will also like it. It looks like this book is broken down into times, because I just caught a glimpse of one. So like 4 a.m., 4 hours to Chicago. So that's how I think, yep, 2 a.m., etc. So this book has 382 pages, so I'm going to attempt to get at least half of it read today. And I think once I get to that halfway point, I will go ahead and share my initial thoughts with you and let you know how it's going. So I will see you then. Hello all, I am getting ready to head to work, and I was listening to a little bit more of With a Vengeance, so I am actually at 65%, I believe is what it says. Yep, 65%, if you can see that. There we go. And it says I have like 3 hours and 46 minutes left, so this should be done actually today while I am at work, but we will obviously have to see how many disruptions and things I have. But I am getting ready to start chapter 32. I'm like right in the middle of chapter 31. So I have this much left. So far, I am enjoying this. I wouldn't say this is my favorite Riley Sager. This is definitely a much slower mystery thriller. And there are some questions that have been answered, but there is still plenty that needs to be answered. So that obviously is going to happen in the last part of the book. I have about a third left, I would say, and I think this has a nice build-up, but I wouldn't say that it's the most engaging. I definitely think the audio is helping me get through it. I do think if I was reading this physically that I might struggle a little bit with it because it does kind of meander on. This is a book that has multiple characters, and then a lot of the chapters are giving us backstory on some of those characters. So it's not just like a straightforward mystery. We're getting a lot of other POVs kind of mixed in so you can meet the cast of characters. But I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm curious to see how this whole thing is going to conclude. There have been some hints as to who is responsible for the deaths of the people that are stuck on this train, because we have now had 2 at this point in the book, and I'm curious to see if that is what actually has happened, or if we're gonna get a twist. I would assume because it's Riley Sager, we're gonna get a twist. But yeah, it's going well so far. I am planning on, again, finishing this today while I am at work. So once I have it complete, I will obviously give you full thoughts and a final rating, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm hoping that that will continue. Hello all, I have finished With a Vengeance by Riley Sager, and I am giving this 4 stars. It is definitely a much slower paced thriller mystery than you would expect from him, at least based on the other books that I've read by him. There are little bits of action like sprinkled throughout, but really this is just a slow-paced book. And I think part of that is because he spends a lot of time delving into all of the different people on the train and giving us some backstory and like what motivated them to help the person who wanted to bring down Anna's family. And that's like the whole setup of this. She wants revenge for what all of these people did to her family. So through these other chapters, we are getting like the backstory and the reasonings behind why they ultimately did that. So I think honestly, this kind of reminded me of Lucy Foley a little bit in that she does like different points of views from a lot of different people. Now, I did not like the only Lucy Foley book that I've read. I think I gave it like 2.5 stars. But for me, this one did work. I think we needed that backstory, but this is not a fast-paced thriller. So if you go into it thinking that's what you're gonna get, you're gonna be disappointed. I do think the audiobook helped a lot. It kept me engaged, kept me interested in what was going on, and continued to move the story forward even as parts of it were kind of more slow and lulling, if you will. But I liked this. I'm giving it 4 stars, and I'm glad that I finally got it read. This was the Literally Dead book club pick for July, so I am like 2 months behind on that. And it now also completes the Buzz cover challenge for transportation on the cover. So 2 birds, 1 stone, etc. So we can check this one off, which means I now have 1 book left, and that is the Buzz cover book for September, which is Foliage on the cover. And I will be reading Salt Houses by Hala Al-Yan. This is a book about a Palestinian family and some of the trials and tribulations that they have had to go through. It's a bit of a family drama. We have multiple POVs in this one as well. Each of the chapters has like a person's name at the top, and it says, I'll go ahead and just read the back. On the eve of her daughter Alia's wedding, Salma reads the girl's future in a cup of coffee dregs. She sees an unsettled life for Alia and her children. She also sees travel and luck. While she chooses to keep her predictions to herself that day, they will all soon come to pass when the family is uprooted in the wake of the Six-Day War of 1967. I have started listening to this on audio. I did find a freebie on Audible. So if you want to read it, it is available through, I think, the 30th of September for free for members. So you can check that out. That's how I'm going to go ahead and read it, because I am trying to get through this fairly quickly. And with work, I can't really bring a book and read it physically. I need to have the audio. So I am currently on chapter 5, somewhere in the middle of chapter 5, actually. So I'm right around like page 80 or so. So once I get home from work, it's going to be a late night. We have curriculum night tonight, but once I'm home from work, I'll go ahead and give you an update, because I will be 100 pages into it, and my goal is to have this done by tomorrow. So that is what I'm going to read, and that is what you are going to hear about in the next part of this vlog. Hello all, I have actually completely finished Salt Houses. So yesterday I got to about 50% of the way through the book, but it was quite late and so I was getting ready for bed and then going to bed, so I did not film any kind of halfway point update. Had I done that, I think I would have told you that while I was enjoying the story, and I feel like the author had a lot of important things to say about the Arab diaspora and particularly those who originated from Palestine, I was not super emotionally invested in much of anything that was going on, even though there were some very traumatic things talked about in the book. So I'm not sure if that is because I was listening on audio or what the deal was, because I just was not feeling the emotional punch that I was expecting to feel. And I think this is a me problem, not a book problem, because everyone else seems to really have felt that emotional connection, whereas I found that that was lacking a little bit in the first half. This book is told through multiple POVs. Some of them we revisit more than once. Some of them we only get like one chapter from them. It gives you the family tree at the beginning, so I will kind of give you an example right here. And then I wouldn't say everyone gets a POV chapter, but a lot of them get a POV chapter or two. And so they are the ones kind of telling their story and their family's story and kind of relating how many people from Arab countries have been forced to pick up and move frequently because of wars and other things going on. So that part was very well done, and it helps that the author is Palestinian, so she is speaking from her experience, her family's experience, and I did like that part of it, but again, I was just lacking something emotionally. I'm not really sure how to put that into words other than saying that. That being said, there was a portion towards the very end, actually at the very end, the epilogue, where I did tear up a little bit and finally felt that connection that I was expecting, but because it took so long for me to feel that way, I'm gonna give this 4 stars. I still think this is an extremely well-written book. It's beautifully written, but it just didn't work fully for me personally, and I don't really know how else to put it. So while I would highly recommend this, and I would also read anything else that the author writes, I am not sure if she's written any other books. It looks like she's done like articles and stuff. She's got like a poetry collection, a couple poetry collections. I'm not huge on poetry, but if she wrote another novel, I would totally check it out because I do feel like this was well written. It just was lacking something for me personally. So that's kind of all I really have to say about it. I'm glad I read it. Again, it is a worthwhile read. It just didn't fully work for me. So 4 stars for this one, but it does complete the Buzz cover challenge. So let's go ahead and do a little recap of where I am with the Buzzword and Buzz cover challenges. So this is where I currently stand with the Buzzword challenge. I did read Midnight in Chernobyl, so I am up to date on that. And then if we flip to the Buzz cover challenge, I obviously finished With a Vengeance, which was the prompt for August, and I have now read Salt Houses, which fulfills the prompt for September. So I am caught up on the Buzzword, which is great, and hopefully now I can stay up to date as we move through the last 3 months of the year. It's kind of wild to think that I only have 3 more months of 2025, but at the same time I feel like certain things have made this year feel extremely long, and then other portions of it went really quickly. So Yeah, kind of a conundrum there. So anyway, that is going to conclude this buzzword vlog. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. If you made it to the end of the video and would like to leave an emoji to show you were here, you can leave me a flower emoji of your choice in honor of the foliage on the cover prompt and the beautiful flower on the front of Salt Houses. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.